Hello and welcome to the Dweebz in Japanese podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Patrick. What just happened? You dropped the
And I'm
paper?
also one of your hosts. Yeah, I was trying to knock the paper off, but I couldn't.
Oh,
It'll be
that's
okay.
sad. You didn't say your name. I'm one of your hosts.
I did. Oh yeah, I'm also one of your hosts. Hello.
All right. We just got done with watching Darker Than Black episode 12,
Yes.
which is very interesting. I want to watch more episodes now.
Me too. I saw the preview and I remember the next one.
I don't remember
Because it
any
was
of the
cool.
next ones. I'm getting way more this time around. Years later.
Yeah. Well, yeah,
Um,
discussing it's helpful too, because
Yeah, because you're kind of doing a more deep dive into what's actually happening, and you're taking time to reflect on the thing you just watched
exactly.
versus kind of just blowing through it.
Yeah.
So that was. What do you want to say about it?
I want to point out that the guy Nick, he seemed to be pretty emotional for a contractor too. So that
Yeah,
rule that they kind of
right.
said doesn't seem to
Well,
apply to everyone.
yeah.
Because
Well, I
other
think
than
Hay
Hay,
was
most of
saying
them.
that they're like killers, which is true. Like everybody
Mhm.
who's. What's interesting about Hay though is he kills. Well, he doesn't really necessarily try to kill contractors.
It's usually part of his. Oh yeah, but he
Something
kills
else
a part of
usually happens to the
his job
contractor.
usually. Yeah.
Something else usually happens to the contractor, and he's just like they're involved.
Yeah.
But yeah, he was saying that like he doesn't see dreams. Contractors don't see dreams, and so he's calling himself a contractor, and he's been
Mhm.
doing that since the beginning, though. Like even the first episode, right? So
Yeah.
he's a contractor for sure. Like they're all contractors, but Hayes just like the weird one out. But that's a good point. Nick is sort of different from the other contractors because he does have like a dream. He does get emotional about something,
Hmm.
which is kind of weird.
Yes. It is. It seemed like he did
Yeah.
achieve his dream too,
Yeah, it
somehow. But I don't
somehow with the
understand that
weird like
part.
meteorite looking glass thing or whatever.
Yeah.
Like
Turned into a kid.
it was like a vision, but he also like blew a huge crater into the ground, blasting off
Yeah.
with this little
And
kid
he's
rocket.
gone.
So something happened. Um, but yeah, the fact that he's like killing, so he was going into Hell's Gate to try to see the actual stars for some reason.
Hmm.
Like that was his goal. I don't know what that kid was trying to do outside there to do that. I think he explained it a little bit, but well, mostly what I understood is like he just wanted to. He was just explaining his feelings. Like I really want to see the real stars in the sky, and I want to blast off. Um,
Nice.
that's like basically all I understood. So, but I don't know.
Mhm.
Well, he was saying that like, yeah, they're trying to stop me, or like, yeah, they're trying to, like shogunai, like if they attack me, I have to defend myself type of thing, because like they don't understand my dream type of thing.
Oh, I
And
see.
Hay was saying, um, you know, blah 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 blah, like and then like I knew you were a, or I mean, I trusted you, blah 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 blah, and he said, I believed in you, blah blah blah. Then Nick was saying, like I thought that you may maybe understand my dream because we both don't have dreams, and I have
Oh,
this dream, or like some odd conversation like that. It was interesting though. There was a lot more like deep than the other episodes, which I appreciate. So
hmm.
cool.
Yeah, that was a
Cool.
good one.
How have you been recently?
Been good, dude. I've been doing I think I mentioned recently I've been in level 7
Ooh,
and I
chugging
have
along,
been huh?
chugging along.
Yeah, chug chug. And I've been trying to do 10 10 lessons on Wanikani. And so far I've been on it for I feel like a couple days now, and I haven't seen any new content from that level, which has been interesting, even at my higher
Mm,
my increased pace. So that's
mm.
interesting. But I'm still fine
What
with
new
that because
content?
I still feel like I'm learning a lot of new words because I am. Um, But yeah,
Yeah. What do you
that's
mean?
just
What do you mean
interesting.
new content? Like,
So like, there's no, I haven't learned any radicals or kanji from that
oh,
level.
so just a bunch of vocab words and stuff.
Yeah.
Sometimes that happens though, where like the beginning of the level will just give you a bunch of vocab words, um, unless you're using like the reorganizer script or whatever.
I see.
But yeah,
Yeah, like I said,
interesting.
I'm fine with that though. And then I think this is a spot to ask you. I had a question real quick about
Sure.
two, basically two words that mean the same thing. It was
Hmm.
um hold on. I forgot the second one. It was Nenji, like for annually. And then there's,
Nenju.
yeah, it was Nenju. Is that also annually?
Nenju is annually.
And then there's Nenji as well.
I don't know what Nenji is.
Okay. Because I was asking about that.
Oh, Nenji is also manual. Oh, I see.
So
Yeah, I
I
hear.
was seeing
Oh,
if
sorry,
you knew
sorry.
the differences.
Nenju. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Sorry. Like like Toshichu, Nenju, and then Nenji. Right. Interesting. Yeah. So, I mean, looking it up, because now that I can see the kanji, I can understand the difference. Like Nenju is
Hmm.
year round, so basically all the time. Um, so Nenju is like, um, so
Or sorry, not Nenju, Maitoshi, I think.
oh, Maitoshi and then
Yeah,
Nenju,
Maitoshi and Nenji.
Nenji. Oh, so
Which one do you hear more?
Maitoshi is just literally every Maitoshi I hear a lot more. So Maitoshi literally means every, so my year.
Yeah,
And my nen, we don't say my nen because of weirdness. This is a sort of irregular word,
it is.
Jungle.
Yeah.
It's a exception. So Maitoshi is just every year. So if you want to say every year, I go on vacation with my family. The fly just landed on my nose. Um, then you say毎年ぐらいに、um, 家族と、単旅行行こう。行く。単旅行に行く。Um,
Huh.
the town is like small, or Shoryoko, sorry. Shoryoko, so Tanki Ryoko is like a short time period, because a Shoryoko is like a small trip.
Oh,
Ryoko is a trip, and then Shoryoko is like
I
a
guess.
small trip. Okay.
Gotcha.
Um, but anyways, my Toshi is just every year. Nenji is apparently like the fiscal year or the end of the year. Um, so it's like after after a year has ended, type of thing. Um, so
Oh, like
you're
you
kind
could
of
say
like
like a,
talking about the previous year, type of thing.
yeah,
Like
like
this
a yearly
year,
report or something. Like,
kind of, yeah. Is, I guess the nuance there. I don't really use Nenji through conversation.
okay,
Um, my Toshi is the way
more
more
common.
common speak, right? And then Nenju is also really common, like
Yeah.
year round, all year. Uh, Nenju Ego Chu or something like that, like open all year long, round. They might have this
Hmm.
like a sign or something on something you think would be seasonal or something like that, like a resort, like a ski resort or whatever, and they say like Nenju Egyo Chu. Egyo is business, like doing business. Egyo
Business.
Chu is like in business or open, basically. Like
Okay.
we're I don't know how to say that in English. We're open, basically.
Yeah, that's the
Um,
meaning of it, right?
so if you look at the sign that says Egyo Chu in kanji, um, Egyo being business, Egyo Chu is like open, basically.
Gotcha. And does it use
Uh,
the that same kanji for chu, like in
yes, yeah,
like
Chu is like
middle?
middle, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Cool.
Yep.
All
Because it
right.
also means like when a chu is put like tacked on to a verb, or sorry, a noun. When it's tacked on to a noun, it means like happening or in the process of.
Okay.
So, Egyo chu is like
business is
Egyo is business, and then business is booming. No, business is happening. Choose
yeah.
like ongoing is currently happening. It's in
Oh,
progress.
interesting.
Yeah,
I haven't seen it as that yet.
kind of hard to explain that in English, but I hope that makes sense. Like it's
Yeah, that makes sense.
currently in progress.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Cool. And
So
also one more quick
Nenju,
update.
sorry about that. Like, but
Oh,
Nenju is right. Like it's like the Nen is being the years. Like the year is kind of currently in progress, which means it's year round. I don't know. That's sort of a
that,
weird
yeah,
part to
that one's kind
understand.
of
Yeah.
that one's a little bit weird.
Sorry to cut you off. What were you saying?
Oh, it's all good. I was saying I had one more update. I have a new camera on the way, so I will
Oh,
no
sweet.
longer be washed out.
Awesome. Cool. I mean, like it doesn't look bad
Um,
at all. It looks fine. So
yeah,
I
just
look really washed up. I need to get a new camera. This thing's old.
but yeah, hopefully it will look better than this one.
Cool.
And then so what about you? What have you got going on?
Awesome. Yeah, it sounds like you're making good progress. Those first few levels are
Levels?
really fun and
Yeah.
a bunch of new stuff, right? I feel like you're gaining traction.
Yeah, a lot of
Um,
common words.
a lot of common words that you'll see all the time. Honestly, what's interesting from like a foreigner's perspective learning Japanese is that um, you're gonna learn kanji that's simple looking, but the meaning, like the abstract meaning of it, is sort of complicated and hard for maybe a child to understand. And so in Japan, they go backwards. They don't do like necessarily simple kanji for kids. They do that, but they also do simple meaning.
Hmm.
So like they wouldn't understand, loiter or whatever, like or uh whatever some hard simple kanji are. I can't think of one off the top of my head, but
Yeah,
something that
I
an
think it's
adult
interesting though.
would understand, right? Yeah.
There's something
But
that's like not just an object or
right, it's like an abstract
you know,
concept or something like that.
yeah.
The kanji might be really simple, like reason or something. It's not a super simple kanji, but reason, something like that. Um, or treat. I was about to say, I have no idea what I was about to say. Something like that. Like that's a little confusing for a child. But if you give them something that's a little bit more complicated kanji, but of a simpler meaning, they'll usually get it. And you know, so like look, that as a foreigner, we care, we adults, we understand the meaning of all of these things. We just need
Yeah.
simpler kanji to be able to get familiar with Japanese, with Chinese characters.
Yeah, because you'll
Um,
notice a lot of patterns.
because you'll notice a lot of pattern. Yeah, when you start from the simple kanji, and then radicals that kind of appear in more complicated kanji. Because yeah, it's just all patterns. There is some system. It's not just
Hmm.
like all made up. It is all made up, but it's usually made up from the beginning
Yeah, it kind
radicals
of
and
builds
stuff.
off
So
of itself.
yeah, and you can kind of after a while, like after 7, 8 years or whatever you've been doing this for, you can kind of start guessing with the readings of things, and sort
Mm.
of guessing the meanings of things, and be right 60 to 70% of the time. I feel like
That's
for
still
me,
pretty
it's
good.
always like 60%, but the readings, there's I forget what the name of it is, but there's like there's a radical or whatever that's or a radical that is a kanji also. So like a more complicated kanji, instead of that complicated kanji, it's a smaller kanji. And often there'll be one kanji in the complicated kanji, maybe two kanji in the complicated kanji, and one of the kanji has like a bigger, uh, stronger influence on what the reading will be. So I'm making this complicated, but it's
Yeah.
really not complicated. Like I'll look at looking at yeah, like your wall of shame word, for example, um, higashi. I know I'm skipping ahead a little bit. Higashi.
Oh yeah,
Um,
yeah.
Toll is the onyomi for that,
Hmm.
and if that appears in a more complicated kanji, my head would just go straight to toll. I'd be like,
Yeah,
I guess the
that
reading
makes
is
sense.
toll because I see that in there. So that kind of thing. Um, so one, it kind of gives you a really good base. So then as you go along, you can sort of just kind of guess the readings. So then at level 57 where I'm at, it's like think I see more exceptions uh, to those, and so you just have to kind of remember weird words, which I'll get to in my wall of shame thing, um, which is hard to remember. But I don't know. The patterns are kind of like habits for me now, and then I just gotta
That's
spit
really
it
cool.
out and then try to fix my habits when they're not correct. Um, yeah, so I've been trying to read my book at lunch. I said I was going to do that, right? Like kind of in
Hmm.
the middle of my workday. It sort of leans the end of my workday, and I like it actually. Right now, I found that it's really easy to focus on my book versus going to bed.
Yeah,
I've been trying to read my book. That's really hard. But recently, I've been really busy at work, so I've been having to kind of skip it. And I haven't had the good time to stop what I'm doing at work and then be able to focus on my book. It's also really hard to eat and read at the same time because the little Shostetsu books, this book is about hand size. And so, I mean, I can eat and read at the same time, but usually I'm eating something with my hands. So it's like dirty.
oh,
I can't,
I
and like
see.
turning the page is sort of hard. And I like to read with my fingers,
Hmm.
as I'm going along the page because it helps me read faster. And so it's not like I think what I'm trying to do is eat while I'm working and then take that time, 30 minutes or so, just to focus on reading.
Oh, I see.
It's still hard though because as a software engineer, I get
Yeah, you
pinged
need both
all
your hands,
day.
right?
Uh, no, eating while I'm working is fine because I'm just
Hmm.
on my desk. It's not no big deal. But uh, what's more annoying is like being pinged all day, like from coworkers, from other people at the company, from my manager. And so like even if
Gotcha.
they'd be like having a question. So basically throughout my workday, it's really, really hard to focus on anything except for work.
Hmm.
So um I'm hoping they kind of get around that, but we'll see. I'm hoping to be able to kind of like focus, hey, this is lunchtime. And a lot of my coworkers do that. I've just been kind of bad at that. I usually try to take that 30-minute lunch at the end of my day. Basically just like kind of
Oh, I see.
leave earlier a little bit than most people because I don't really need lunch break or whatever. Yeah, so I'm trying to take that though because I do like to break it up. Um, but yeah, I don't know. I just schedule myself really busy. So what
Mm-hmm.
about you, Khalil? Your favorite Japanese verb recently? Maybe from the anime we just watched?
I actually don't have any from the anime. I did learn.
Oh,
I was gonna put actually just learn some space related words like Hoshi
ooh,
or star. I liked what is this the word Mercury, Suisei. I think
so you say, yeah.
it just makes sense.
Mm.
Um, it's fun to say, it's cool. It's a cool planet. It's a pretty good one.
It's a pretty good one.
But I think the most interesting one to me
I'm a
was
fan.
yeah, I'm a fan of that one. Of was it Dose
Yeah,
Saturn. Interesting thing
that
about
makes sense.
that to me, yeah, is that it uses the Saturday like day of the week kanji
Ah, interesting.
in just like in English, like the Saturn. I just think that parallel is very interesting.
Remind me what Suisei is? I don't remember.
So we say it was Mercury,
Mercury. Okay, interesting.
and then yeah. So I don't know like the way the planets were named. I don't know why that lines up so well between English and Japanese. I'm curious to see what other languages call the planets because I never really thought about things like that.
Yeah, yeah. Saturn. So, or sorry, Mercury is kind of weird to me, though. Like water planet, Mercury is
I guess you would
lava
think that's
hot.
Neptune, huh? Like
Yeah,
that would make more sense.
well, because it's blue. It's gaseous, but being blue or whatever, like
Yeah,
that color looks like the ocean.
I don't remember what
Um,
Mercury looks like. It's
Mercury
pretty
is like
normal
red
looking.
hot, close to the
Yeah, very close to the sun.
sun. Saturn kind of makes sense. That's kind of cool. And then Saturn, it kind of makes it
Yeah,
easier to remember. That's a mnemonic, right? Um, yeah, Saturn having the rings that are like debris, right? Um, is kind of cool. It is interesting. I forget a lot of the planet. Like the number one planet name that I remember for some reason is Kase, which is Mars.
nice.
Um,
I guess it is a more
so I
common
forget.
planet to talk about.
Yeah,
nowadays.
for sure, for sure. Um, Suisei and Dose, interesting. And you have another word.
Yeah, tokubetsu. I don't know if
Yep,
this is the right kanji.
it is. Yep.
Okay, but I've seen it means like a special thing. Does it mean like special as in like it's a unique thing? Like it's like there's something about it that
Yeah. It means like
okay,
special or especially. Tokubetsu ni, like I'm doing this especially for, or tokubetsu no
like putting
asagohan.
emphasis on too.
Yeah, it's like, well, tokubetsu no asagohan. Like it's a special breakfast. Tokubetsu no
Gotcha.
asagohan. Yeah, you can say that for a bunch of different things. It's
Okay,
really common. Yep.
sweet. I don't remember where I heard that from. I'm
Probably
sure.
hear it from all over.
Yeah, I was gonna say it could be anywhere, man.
There's a funny song that people should look up. I don't remember the comedian's name, the what I gain his name, but the song goes that he made goes 特別なスープをあなたにあげる。あったかいんだから。そう。特別なス
Oh,
ープをあなたにあげる。あったかいんだから。So, special soup. I'm going to give you a special soup because it's hot. It's basically what he's saying. But then he does like this. あったかいんだから. Just because it's hot.
it's
So
pretty
I'll
sick.
put that in the description. I actually need to put that here. Um,
Is that what it's
to,
called? Did you say
特別
tatakai
の
dakara?
スープ。Huh? あったかい is 温かい is hot or like warm.
Mm-hmm. Dakara,
あっ
like
たかいん
because.
だから。Yeah, like, だから is because. So,
Yeah,
あったかいの but あったかいん。あったかいんだから。
I found I found a whole lyric site for that song. It's kind
It's
of funny.
very short.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. So I'll put that in the description for this video if you guys want to watch that. It's a silly song. Um,
Sweet.
Sweet. Yeah, tokubetsu is really a common word. I have some less common words.
All right,
Uh,
let's hear
so
'em.
koltai is something that came up in the
Cool.
anime, and koltai means to retreat. Um,
Ah.
very infrequently used. How often do you say retreat? I mean, you probably read it a lot. Um, or if you're watching, say, like war movies or something like that, you might hear it. But
That would make sense.
you know, that came up. So reading the kanji, I understand what it means. And I think I even learned it through Ranikana, but I most definitely did.
And you
Um,
got behind, and what's the
but
other one?
when people like that recall thing, like when he says it in a show, like kotai, that could be a lot of things. It also means resistance. Um, like in different kanji, but same reading. So I get confused when I hear it, but it makes total sense in the context, right? So
Yeah.
Gime is another word too. Gime means pseudonym or like false name. So gi
Oh.
is the onyomi for nise, which is like fake, and then
Hmm.
me is name. It's the onyomi for name. So
Hmm.
fake name, pseudonym. Gime. Yojin is careful consideration. Kirihara, she was talking about, or she said that to her detectives, her fellow cops, detectives, or whatever. So Yojin Shiro, like be careful, like just be careful.
Oh.
Or she drove off.
And
Uh,
that one is Rendaku, the
Rendaku,
sheep.
Yojin, yeah, Shin. So Yo is like task, and then Jin in this case, which is the Rendaku Shin, is
Hmm.
heart. So careful heart means be careful or caution, take caution.
I see. I
Um,
see.
yeah, have caution. Ryusei is another word. That means like meteorite. Ryu is I think that what's the English? I know what it means. Just trying to translate it to English. I think it
Hmm.
means like stream or like
Stream.
flow. Yeah, because it's the same kanji as like nagare or nagasu. Nagare is um,
Oh.
flow to be flowing type of thing, like water, for example. um,
Yeah.
like a stream. Also another reading for this is nagareboshi. I think it's the same kanji too, because nagare is the same kanji. It's just sort of like combined into one. Nagareboshi. Yeah, it's the same kanji. It's just like smushed together. So if you're reading it with like the onyomi, chanto jukugo, it would be ryusei. But another way to say that is nagareboshi. I think that's
Mm.
probably the more common way. But what some scientists said ryusei. So. Um, Another word, the last word on my list is boing kill. And bowl is like hope, like
Oh.
kibo no bowl. So bowl n is far, and then it's the onyomi for far. And then kill is uh not mirror. What does that mean? It's like glasses or something. Spectacles.
Spectacle?
Let me go look up like the actual English. Yeah, it means mirror. It's the onyomi for mirror. So like kagami is the kunyomi for kyo. So mirror. Yeah, wall of shame words, Khalil.
Still have toll on there. It
Yep.
went up in percentage by a little
Oh,
bit.
nice.
So
Weren't you like 61 or something before, and now you're 71.
yeah, I was like in the 60s. So
Mm.
making progress on that. And I got a newer word.
Oh, you were
Um,
69. I remember that.
oh,
So
so,
you've gone up.
so
You've gone up 2
2%.
points.
Oh yeah. What is this? Shiri to I keep getting the meaning wrong because for some reason I think it's like personal space, but it's just or private space, but it's just private, like just that.
Yeah. Yep. You can say shiritsu is a really common word too.
Hmm.
Um, it is kind of odd, right? Like private standing, private. It's odd, but it's so common that you just get used to it.
Yeah.
Shiritsu.
So I'm not too worried about that.
It's a really common na adjective. So
Um,
shiritsu na gakko or
uh,
shiritsu gakko is also what people say. So shiritsu gakko is a private school.
hmm. Cool.
Um, yeah, and then uh, koritsu gakko is like public.
Hmm.
So um, yeah, so I still have Hinge. That's going to be there forever. Oddly, I actually don't have the other one, which is
Oh.
kagayaku. But the other one, the reason being is because I'm doing worse at this new word, which will soon be good because I know what it means now. I just learned this word. So
Hmm.
when you just learn words and you're doing bad, it shows up on this list. So
Yeah.
is my excuse. But this, so of course, the first word, hinge, su, been struggling with that one because it doesn't pop up in my feed. It's been months. It's been many months.
It has.
The other one, setsuri. I have 100%
Reading.
reading. So setsu means in addition, and ri is reason, right? So like in addition to reason, the meaning it's so obvious, right? In addition to reason, there's providence or divine providence is the name or is the meaning of this word.
Providence.
So the mnemonic is so hard to remember.
Yeah,
Um,
that's kind of weird.
I don't know how I remember it now. I think it's just because I keep getting it wrong.
Yeah.
And so like I keep looking at it. And then so the mnemonic's not helpful, but it's hard to make a mnemonic from the meanings in addition and reason. So
Right.
I think I just started remembering just because I keep messing up. So sometimes that happens. Um, yeah, so divine providence is Tetsuri. So I'll get that to 100% really quickly.
Yeah,
Moving on.
no
So we're
doubt.
moving on to the grammar word lesson. So it's actually not a word lesson. It's a grammar lesson.
Ooh.
Have you ever been so hungry that you're like can't think straight? That's how I feel right now.
Ah,
Should have ate something before we started. That's okay. Um, so
no
yeah, I thought it'd be
worries.
fun to and probably good to talk about sentences and like sentence clauses and stuff because it's we haven't really talked about this before, and we haven't really. I've gone into more, less than basic grammar lessons, right? Um, and this isn't necessarily basic. Uh, I mean, there are basic sentences that you can create, right? And like basic compound sentences that you can create,
Hmm.
which I've also talked about in a previous podcast. Um, but I think that today it'd be fun to talk about, you know, sort of just like more kind of stepping back a little bit and talking about, um, how Japanese sentences are different from English. I mean, like, I don't want to go too basic here, but how Japanese has a subject and then it has an object if there is one. But it's usually subject, verb, or subject, object, verb. So
Hmm.
subject and then maybe like a direct object and then a verb. So the verb's always at the end and the subject is
Yeah.
typically at the beginning, um, if it's included at all. Um, so, there's like obviously with conversation, like conversational Japanese, just like English, it it can go in ways that are not super grammatically correct or some ways that would look weird on a page. And so I think the problem and struggle that students feel when they are first learning Japanese or any language is how to take that robotic book speak and turn it into natural sounding conversational Japanese or whatever. So um, I can give you an example here of some uh, way to say something like a sentence in Japanese. Like for example, this, and again, I'm gonna link this article in the description of the video. Um, but in English, we would say something like, "My father makes sushi," right?
Hmm.
Or "My father made sushi," or "My father is making sushi," like the present progressive, right? I don't like you don't need to remember present progressive all that stuff. I just remembered right now because one of the only linguistic things I remember. I know very little, but um, you know, my father makes sushi. Is how you say that in English. So it'd be the subject. My father makes is the verb, and then sushi is the object that you're doing the action. That's the direct object, right? And in
Yeah.
Japanese, obviously, it would go maybe not obviously to you, but お父さんがお寿司を作る. So お父さん is a subject. So again, the subject is the beginning of the sentence, like English. But the weird part comes when it's the direct object and then the verb. And then, of course, the
Yeah.
wo, or which is often like uh, not rendaku, but kind of changed the whole, is
Yeah.
signifying the direct object, the thing that's being acted upon, or like the direction of it. It's if you're um, uh, like you can also use it with other people, not just things. Can't think of a good example off the top of my head, but um, so it's a little different, right? Because of the object and the verb. And so Japanese is also a little flexible because it has like particles where English doesn't really have those like grammar signifying particles in our sentences, right? So for example, I can say in Japanese, sushi o tsukutteru no. Like
Hmm.
I'm making sushi. Oh, sushi o tsukutteru no. Sorry. That you think, okay, that it's implied that person who's talking is making sushi. So sushi
Yeah.
o tsukutteru no. Okay, it sounds female because it has a no at the end. Um, and then the next clause would be お父さんがね. So or not probably she, because of the no at the end. But お父さんがね. So she's clarifying that, oh, it's my dad who's making sushi.
Hmm.
So like the reason that works, because in English it sounds really weird, right? Like if I said making sushi, dad is or dad, it's just kind of like we would say it almost always. Dad is making sushi. Like the subject is
Yeah.
very important in an English sentence, right? The subject is not very important in a Japanese sentence, because of the particles. You can always clarify if people are confused, but it's still grammatically correct, and it sounds totally natural to say sushi o tsukutteru no. But in Japanese, or sorry, in English, you need something like you need a subject. You need dad, or you need he, right? Makes sushi or is making sushi. You can't say that alone. You need a subject in an English sentence, right?
Hmm.
Japanese, you don't. You don't need a subject at all. So,
Yeah. I
both.
mean, the only thing is for English, if the subject is given first, like what are you doing? You can reply making sushi, and that makes sense. So
Making
it's
sushi. Oh, right.
yeah.
So,
So if the subject is implied beforehand, you can do that. But you're saying you can not do that with Japanese, right? You cannot
what do you
you
mean?
could you were saying you could say like
No, no, no. Japanese is more flexible than English in that sense. So it's the opposite. I think that English is a lot less flexible. I see what you're saying, that you can say that if you're having a conversation and somebody says, um, "Is that what is dad doing? Making sushi?" Like that's okay. You can say that. Um, that's one of those rare instances where you can say that and it makes sense in a conversation.
mhm,
Um, uh, so that was a good point out. But in Japanese, it's more common to just leave it out with the subject entirely.
I
So,
see.
um, so yeah, in that case, you would say that basically the same thing in Japanese versus English. You'd say,今お父さん何やってる? And then you'd say, sushi を作ってる. What 今お父さん何をやってる? Like
Yeah.
now, what is dad doing? Oh, sushi を作ってる. Like, oh, he's making sushi. Um, so in that case, it'd be the same. That's good. Again, a good point out. But you'll often hear in Japanese that like the subject will be left off, and you'd be like, "Wait, what are we talking about?" But it's all implied from like the first opening,
So it's like
sentence or whatever,
context
the
or
context. So what I'm saying is that like, sure, it's similar to English in the sense that like you can just say he, or you can just say she, or them, or whatever, and
mhm,
you don't know who you're, somebody who comes to the conversation doesn't know who that is, but everybody who knew the beginning, like pretext, like the context of who they're talking about. If
I
you say
see.
he or she or them, it makes sense to them. Um, but so it's the same thing in Japanese, except for instead of saying he, she, or whatever, you don't have to say that. You can just like completely leave it out. You can. It's like more. It's like how much context do they need to understand what you're trying to say?
Hmm.
Often there'll be like follow up questions, like, oh, wait, who are we talking about again? But most of the time it's pretty well understood from just that beginning, like opening conversation. So um, it's yeah, often those Japanese sentences are like shorter because you don't need to include the subject if that's already implied. So it's grammatically correct entirely. Where English, you need to include most of the time he, she, them, they,
Hmm.
it. You need
Some
a
kind of
subject.
a yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So that's what I was trying to get at. You had a really good counterexample though, which is like, yeah, if there's somebody asking in conversation, what is dad doing? There's a subject's already implied there, making sushi. That kind of makes sense. That type of question.
You what?
But the more that makes sense in a conversation, but you would probably more often than not, like you say, maybe making sushi, but more often than not, people will probably say he's making sushi, right? Like he is
Yeah.
making sushi. That's a more
Yeah,
common response.
yeah.
Yeah.
Making sushi is more like casual, like really casual.
Right. Like making sushi. Yeah, yeah, yeah. That is more
Like
casual.
something you would kind of say like while you're busy doing something, like you would just throw that out there real quick and
Well,
kind of not really
it's also like a
continue.
direct reply to what they're asking, right?
Hmm.
Like if anything else comes to that question, it doesn't sound right. Um, right? For example, like if somebody asks, what is dad doing? Is he out in the yard? And you just say making sushi. It sounds kind of odd, right?
Yeah, it does.
What is dad doing? Yeah, he hasn't talked to like what is dad doing? He's out. Is he out in the yard? I haven't heard from him all day making sushi. It's just kind of odd, right?
Yeah, that doesn't.
It's
Yeah,
like a
that doesn't
direct
seem to work.
reply to what they're asking, and it sort of is like
Hmm.
completing the sentence for them in a way.
Yeah,
If
and
you
like,
add
and
more, it's just odd. Yeah, it's like
it
really,
is,
really casual for a very specific question, right?
and then not expecting really any more conversation after that. It kind of seems like
Yeah,
it's more.
right,
It seems to
right,
be more curt, I think.
right. So, right, more curt reply, more, it's casual, but it's also common, but it's also not,
Situational
it's
too.
actually not grammatically correct. It's very situational. It's not very grammatically correct either. He is making sushi is a more grammatically correct thing
Yeah, but you know
to
how
say.
English goes.
Yeah, but um, but I'm just trying to make it clear that English is sort of confusing in that way,
Hmm.
where Japanese is less confusing to me, in my opinion, because um, it's you have all of these uh, particles that you can use to sort of clarify and signal parts of the sentence,
Hmm.
um, which makes it really easy to like jumble the sentence around and it's fine.
Yeah.
Um,
Could you give some more examples or?
yeah, like say, let's see here.
Because yeah, I'm kind of scrolling through all these sentences, and there's a lot of stuff in here in this article.
Yeah, like so there's something called in the article they're talking about complex sentences. There's linked clauses. Um, this is sort of conjunctive particles. All these things. This is more linguistic terms. Don't worry about that necessarily. It's just a way to.
Mhm.
It's just a label for something so that you can like observe it and then talk about it intelligently. Don't really worry about the labels too much. Just like try to understand, try to look at the example, the sentence itself.
Mhm.
So, for example, 今日は忙しいからストレスが溜まっている。So, 今日は忙しいから、so, from being stressed out, but it's more of like an English because. Um, and then, they talk about, that you can use different particles to add a differentiative meaning, quote unquote. Like you can make the meaning just a little bit different. But this is really common. This is the most common, I would say, like saying because. 今日は忙しいからストレスが溜まってる. So it's not, you know, again, Japanese is sort of like you add a hint of, and I don't want to make this sound more complicated than it really is, but um, basically, the more polite you want to be, the less sure you are of something. Like if I say kara or
Yeah.
no de, if I'm using more polite Japanese, like no de is the reason no de is more polite than kara is you're saying like because of this, from this happened. So if
Yeah.
you say like 今日は忙しいからストレスが溜まってる in English that's fine. Like today was busy, so I'm stressed out. That's fine to say in English, but in Japanese, it's more casual because you are saying because today was busy, I'm stressed out. It's not like a
Yeah.
direct
It's more of a
correlation, sort of like a physics type of thing. It's more of just like my feeling. Because I'm busy, I feel stressed.
gotcha.
Yeah, I hope that makes sense. Um, so if I say this in more polite Japanese, which is not really this lesson, sorry, but if I say this in more polite Japanese, I'd say 今日は忙しいのでストレスが溜まってます. So no de is sort of like um, it's a less strong causal relationship. It's like saying
Hmm.
um, there was all these things happening, and with this I can't think of it. With this situation, there's this correlation type of thing. I can't.
Mhm.
I'm trying to think of a better way to explain that.
I feel
Um,
like what you were saying at first kind of made sense because I think in sometimes instead of trying to give an English example, just saying the like when you
yeah.
said Node was a less direct version of kata, I think that was enough for me. And then
Okay. Yeah.
um just because I think sometimes it's just better to have the meaning rather than a parallel example, especially if it's
Yeah.
not really like
Translatable.
yeah, translatable. But I
Yeah.
think what you the example, the first one you were saying, you said like, yeah, I have all this stuff going on, I'm stressed out. Like, I feel like that makes sense for Node because it's like you are saying that these things are happening in your stress. Like
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
way you
Yeah. Yeah.
said it
Yeah.
are two separate things, but it's kind of obvious that because of these, you're stressed because of these things without saying it. Does that make sense?
Yes. Yeah. All these things are
It's,
happening. Um,
and I'm stressed out. So it's like,
with
well,
because yeah, right. Like no day is sort of saying you're making something a noun. Like you're making the whole entire sentence. You're saying it into a noun with no, and
oh,
then day
that's
is like with. So kind of like with
oh
all of this happening, I'm
yeah.
stressed out. Versus saying because of this, I'm stressed out.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'm glad you pointed that out. Thanks for doing that. Because it is
that's
it
just how I saw it. Yeah,
it's hard to explain into English.
it is.
But there is a feeling, and when you're looking at the sentence too, I encourage people to
Hmm.
do that, to go look at the article and look at the sentence and see the comma. And that's just about how people say it too. It makes sense. So another example. Um, 弟は火星に住みたいと言いました. So again, like we use this all the time, right? So this is another embedded clauses quotation. We've used this in all of the stories that we read,
Hmm.
um, and in our conversation practice and stuff. So this is very, very common. Hopefully this is understandable and known. If not, that's totally fine. We'll explain it. So, ototo wa is the subject, right? So little brother, ototo. And then
Hmm.
this is a quote from something that the little brother said. So the next clause in the sentence is ototo wa kase ni sumitai. So kase is Mars. Ni is like saying on or in. Um, and then sumitai is want to live. So kase ni
Hmm.
sumitai. And then so that's like the quoted phrase is what the little brother said, right? And then the next thing you say is said. In Japanese, you say to iimashita. Now in Japanese, there's a couple of different ways to like signify that this is a quotation or something that somebody said or something that is hearsay or maybe even it
Okay.
is written. And the way you do that in polite Japanese is with to, and in more casual Japanese is te. So they're a little different, and they're both used basically the same exact time. So and you'll hear te a lot more, to be honest. If you're reading like newspapers, you might see to. If you're
Oh,
in a Japanese class, you'll hear to, but way more often than to, you'll hear te. So te is way more common,
so
uh, casual Japanese.
do you see that a lot in like the books you're reading? Because we're you were reading
Um, no, I really don't. I
oh
see te a lot more. Let me go ahead and look.
oh yeah, that's what I meant.
Oh,
I mean you see Tay a lot more than
oh
Toe
yeah,
because all of our stories from Russell Sensei usually
right.
uses
Because
Toe
he's not
imas.
Japanese though.
Yeah,
Um,
and it's for
and
a class, right?
it's
Like
for
you
a
were
class.
saying.
Yeah, it's like the more well. So like Toyu, I see that too. So like with written Japanese, yeah. With like casual conversation, no.
Okay,
So again, like
interesting.
let's see quote. So if I'm looking at a book, I'm trying to look at some that are all quoted. Again, like sometimes they won't even say it. They won't even have that descriptive word said or barked or whatever. They'll just have the what they said quoted. They won't have the said this or whatever clause to that part.
Huh.
So I'm reading here and I see, 了解 is quoted, and then the next thing is like 唯一の女性が it's like, you know, didn't even didn't even say the he said part. It doesn't include that. It's just like a bunch of quoted stuff.
Huh.
Um, yeah. And then it gets really confusing too, because just like in English, you can have quoted, you can have a quote and then have a quote within the quote, like quoteception.
Oh,
So,
yeah.
like somebody's talking in the story or in a conversation, but in a book, it's obvious, right? You'll have like somebody quoted as saying something, but they're also quoting somebody else with what they're saying. And so in
Oh,
Japanese, at least in the way that this book formats that, is like you'll have the thin block quote, and then you'll have a thicker, more boxy looking box quote. So they look different. So it's obvious that something is weird here.
okay.
But it's a quote within a quote. So yeah, again, like so. Okay, so in the book, I would agree that toyu or like whispered or whatever, which I already forgot what that is. I see that a
Oh,
lot though,
yeah.
so I don't know why I forgot that. But you know what? I saw that a lot in Okami no Kodomo, but I'm not really seeing this that much in this book because they're like
Gotcha.
police officers, so they're shouting
So,
probably.
yeah.
Um, but
Like if we were talking and I said like "ototo wa," what was that? Kase?
kase
Kase
kase ni
ni
ikitai
ikitai. I would say
zu I
te
say te.
imasu.
Yeah. So there's a small tsu.
Te-
So it isn't to right after. It is a small tsu, and then you say te imashita or te
Oh,
ita.
between the quote
Or
and
like,
the.
so, 弟はカセに住みたいってずっと言ってたよ. So I say, て、ずっと, like, ずっと is basically without stopping, like continually, persistently, or ずっと as I guess like continually. That's also a really hard one to translate into English, but it's also very, very common. I kind of want to look it up right now. But yes, you use て. So there's a ちっちゃい tsu, very small tsu.
Hmm.
So the smaller tsu,
Yeah.
that basically is like guttural stop or whatever. Is
Yeah.
it guttural or gluttural?
I think it's.
Gluttural? I don't know.
I feel like it's guttural because guttural makes me think of like gluttony. Doesn't seem right.
um,
But I don't
stop.
know.
So you just stop, you just hold, and then te, and then that signifies a quote from something or somebody. Yeah,
Ooh, I see. It's those little things, man.
yeah. Sasayaku. Yeah, right. That's right. That's right. If I read sasayaku, it just doesn't come to my head. It means a whisper. Um, yeah. So that's how to quote things. Again, common is te. There's a small tsu, then te, and then common in like book or children's stories and stuff like that, or just books in general, is to. Oddly enough, but the to omo is more common than te, like te omo. That you don't really say that too much. Like to omo is more common. So, for example, this sentence is 人間は火星に住めないと思う。人間は火星に住めないと思う。So that they're saying 人間 is human beings, and then kase is Mars, and sumenai is like can't live. And then tomo is their opinion. They're saying like I think, right?
Yeah.
Um, so that is also really, really common, like compound sentence or like clause is to say something and then say I think. You're making it a little bit less like a fact. You're just saying I think, this is my opinion. You're making that clear. Even though like in English we'll say our opinion all the time as if it was fact, and that's sort of normal. But in Japanese, they'll use I think all the time. And it's funny because you'll talk to a lot of Japanese people in English too, and they'll say that in English. They'll say I think, I think, I think. Say something. I think, I think,
Yeah.
I think. And you're like, yeah, that's obvious. Like, we know through context and the way you said it, it's your opinion. It's not necessarily the truth. So we're used to just leaving that off. But in Japanese people, they want to make that clear that they're it's their opinion. It's not. Yeah. Which is interesting.
Funny.
Yeah. So hopefully there's a couple more examples that are a little bit more complicated. I think I've talked enough at length about this. So and I apologize for not explaining it better. But
It's all
sentences and
good, dude.
clauses
It's
are very
hard stuff.
useful. Yeah, it's honestly that hard. It's just better to be able to look at the sentence, see the comma, and then be able to get familiar looking at it, and then also hearing it. And then, because the hardest part about for me is like learning a different language is um, splitting words and sentences in your head to be able to process, that word
Oh,
at a time, that sentence at a time, so that you can keep up. Because otherwise, it's just like a stream of
yeah, different
information,
sounds
right?
and yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, hopefully that was interesting and good. Uh, Now it's time for story time, and we decided this week we're going to do a picture book. So if you want to go read along with us, the book link will be in the description. I'm hoping this stays live for as long as the time you're watching this. Hopefully it's still online. That goes for basically all the stories that we read. But if not, listen along. Here we go. This is a picture book, so hopefully the content is actually interesting,
Yeah.
other than the pictures. But these are children's books, so take it as it is. This story is called 宇宙人猫ちゃんの食べ物探し. So 宇宙人猫ちゃん is the alien cat, and 食べ物探し is looking for food.
Oh.
So 宇宙人猫ちゃんは宇宙船で食べてるガリガリフードにはもう飽き飽きです。新しい食べ物を探して、前 UFO で旅に出ました。一番初めに降りた星は雲の星でした。降りても雲ばかり。一向に地面につきそうにありません。猫は雲を食べてみようといっぱいに息を吸い込みましたが、いくら雲を食べても、ちょっともお腹がいっぱいになりません。この雲は猫ちゃんの食べ物ではないな。こんなところに猫ちゃんの食べ物のないな。この猫ちゃんの食べ物のはないな。猫ちゃんは早々にこの星を旅立つことにしました。2番目に降りた星はSo 2番目 is a second. Sorry, there's no kanji, so it's like, there is some kanji, they're very, very simple kanji, and so most of it's like hiragana. So when reading hiragana, it's kind of like interesting. But being a children's book, that's more understandable. So 2番目に降りた星は、でかいコンペという、sorry. でかい、again, no kanji. でかいコンペ糸のような星でした。ごつごつした岩を一つ食べてみようとしましたが、とっても硬くて食べられません。この岩は猫ちゃんの食べ物ではないな。こんなところに猫ちゃんの食べ物はないな。猫ちゃんは早々にこの星を旅立つことにしました。3番目に降りた星は海のある星でした。猫ちゃんはしばらく波の上を漂っていましたら、小さい島を見つかったので、行ってみることにしました。そこは一面の花畑でした。色とりどり。Very colorful, I guess. 色とりどりの花は、いいに追いもしますし、sorry. Again, no kanji, so it's like all kind of weird to me.
Yeah.
色とりどりの花はいい匂い. So good smell. Or, smells, fragrance. いい匂いしましたし、しますし、猫ちゃんには美味しそうに見えました。猫ちゃんは手当たり次第、手当たり次第に花を食べてみましたが、苦い味が広がり、猫ちゃんの口には合いません。We'll stop this last page here. 猫ちゃん
Okay.
は口に直しに水を飲もうと、水辺に行って、水を手ですくって飲みました。そうしたら、びっくりその水はとってもしょっぱいのです。どうやらこの星にも猫ちゃんの食べ物はないみたいけど、猫ちゃんは思いました。And we're going to stop there. This is a little bit of a long story for our segment here. But that's it so far. So, what did you understand so far?
Very little. There's a lot of new words in here, actually.
There's a couple words like iro toridori. I think it just means like basically colorful, like lots of different colors. So let me go ahead and read that. Let me go look it up. Yeah, toridori is like various.
Okay.
Hanabadake is flower field, like a flower field of flowers.
Okay.
What are the words over there?
What is so the beginning of every planet or star, I guess, was like, so Ichiban wa
Ichiban hajime ni. So hajime is like the beginning. So the very first is basically what it means. Orita is like, oriru is to land, basically. So the first star that he landed on, it was a cloudy planet. Kumo no hoshi deshita. Or sorry, not planet, star. It's a cloudy star. So orita, orite mo kumo bakari. So, he tries to land, it's still just clouds. Iko ni jimen ni tsukiso ni arimasen. So he doesn't land on anything. And then the cat tries to eat the clouds, ippai ni iki o suimashita ga. So he took in a lot of clouds in his mouth. He like sucked them all in. But no matter how many clouds he eats, ikura kumo o tabete mo, chitto mo onaka ga ippai ni narimasen. Like he doesn't get full.
Get full.
Yeah. Are there any other words in here that were kind of like? Oh, this one's weird. Dekkai konpeito. I don't know what that is. Konpeito.
Which page was that?
Small colored sugar candy covered with tiny bulges. So I guess this
That's
is like
very
Japanese.
specific.
Yeah, it's like a Japanese candy. Dekkai konpeito.
Like a big one.
So, and you can see by like if you're looking at the book with us, you can see the green blob that kind of, I guess, looks like konpeito. Konpeito. Yeah. Any other words? We're currently on page. I actually don't know what page this is, but we're kind of like halfway through the book. So
we are on 11 to 12. You can see at the bottom a little thing will pop up.
Oh, neat. Okay. Yeah. We're kind of like halfway through, so we'll go ahead and finish this.
Yeah, that is a good place.
But definitely look at the book if you can. The links if you're not listening in the car or whatever. It's pretty cute. So
yeah, very colorful.
Did you want to have some conversation practice? Maybe for about like 5-10 minutes, then we'll end this thing.
Sure. Oh, this one was a little harder for me. I think that's good then. Okay. 始まりましょう。
始めようか。
加藤さん。 一番、
一番目。
一番目、no, いえ、一番、or, no. 何星が、好きですか？
コンペイトコンペイトの星が好き。
あ、
コンペイトのお菓子を調べたらネットで。コンペイト、なんか甘そうな、ちっちゃい、砂糖入りの、砂糖入りのお菓子だね。コンペイト、
コンペと、
コンペイト、
甘い、
甘いみたい。
or,
そう。
いえ、飴。
雨みたいなお菓子だね。そう。
あ、
コンペイトの星が好き、今。
はいはい。クッキーがありません。だろ
空気
あ、
がありません？
クッキー、クッ
そうだね。
キーは、
だって星だもんね。星。
はい。
そうだね。なんか書いてないね。本に書いてない。猫ちゃんの、宇宙猫ちゃんの顔がすごいね。
はい、
その、
白の目。
目の黒い部分がないよね。なんだっけ、どこじゃないんだ。あ、どこか。その、目の黒い
部分
部分はパート。
あ、
黒い部分の名前、目の黒い部分の名前は、どこ、ど
あ、
こ、どこ、
どうか、
どこ。ピューポね。
はい、
それはないです。この宇宙猫ちゃんの目に。だからちょっと怖い。
はい。ちょっと怖い。
なんか2番、
いえいえ
ちょっと
いえ、
待って、ページ
かわ
の、
いい。
あ、待って、1、2、3、4、4ページに見たら、こんな顔してるじゃん。なんか、ほら、一番はじめに降りた星、
はい。
雲の星、
はい。
雲の星のページの表情を見たら、すごい、なんか、
はい、
動向がないから、怖い。
どこがない。
ちょっと怖い。
口に、口を上げている
開いて
上げ、
る口が開いてる
はい、入ってる。
うん。口が開いてる。
歯はありません。
全然ないですよね。もうそれが怖い。でも嬉しそう。結構ハッピーな顔してるよね。幸せな顔してるよね。雲の。でもその、パラシュートがすごい、なんか、ゼリーっぽいね。
毛はあ変です。
毛
あ、ちょっと、いあ、姿
ああー、姿は変だよね。
はい。
あ、形。
形
形はシェイプ。
形
そのパラシュートの形
はい。
が変だよね。そうだね。なんか、姿は生きてるものの話。生きてるものに対して使える。例えば、なんか、あ借りるの姿。それか、ワンちゃんの姿。でも、ほとんど人間の姿で、って言ってたら使える。わかる？
いえ。
姿はの話人間の話してたら使える。でも、形はものに使える。
お
使えます。
はい。
使おう。使うことができます。
はい。
だから、パラシュートの話だったら、 形っていう。でも宇宙猫ちゃんの話だったら、姿っていう。わかる？
いえ。
もう一回言うね。もう
はい。
一回言う。パラシュートのシェイプ
はい。
の話だったら、日本語で、ものだから、形っていう。形。
形。
形って使おう。形という。その言葉使おう。生きてるもの、人間だったら、宇宙猫ちゃんでも、宇宙猫ちゃんの話だったら、姿、宇宙猫ちゃんの姿っていう。形って使わない。形でも使えるかもしれないけど、でも、姿っていう。わかる？人
はい。
間か動物
はい。
だったら、姿っていう。姿。
はい。ああ。
特に人間。
はい。
でも、物携帯、
はい。
これ、パラシュートだったら、
形。はい。
形っていう。
形っ
姿は
ていう。
使えない。姿は
ああ。
使わない。姿は
はいはい。
人間に使う。わかる？そのニュアン
あ
スがある。
多分。
そうそう。OK。他の質問あるかな？他の話すことあるかな？ないかな？もうこの話ちょっと簡単だね。いろんな星に行ってるよね。
はい。
星旅。じゃあ、終わりにしましょうか、この回は。
はい。
おしまいです。終わり。Great.
Wait, what a quick thing. Short pie. Short pie.
しょっぱい Oh, しょっぱい is salty.
Nice. Okay.
Yeah. しょっぱい is like, so,そうしたらびっくり。その水は
Surprised
とっ
because
てもしょっぱいのです。So it's, he was, and then he was surprised because the water was salty.
gotcha. That makes
So he
sense.
probably landed on Earth or something.
Yeah.
This, those,
Spoilers.
yeah, no spoilers. No spoilers. I want you guys to. You probably, if you're reading this already with us, you probably see the
Yeah,
next
I
page. But
already see it.
it gets crazy from here on out, man. There's so much going on.
Oh my god, yeah.
All right. Is there anything you want to recommend or any resources you found online or whatever that you want to call out, Khalil, before we end this thing?
Nope. I have nothing at the moment.
Sweet. I'm gonna go ahead and post the tokubetsu na su.
Yeah, dude.
Tokubetsu no su. Tokubetsu na.
Yeah.
And that's so I'll put that in the description because it's funny. Go watch it. All right, let's end this bad boy. Thank you guys for watching. Ready? 3, 2, 1. Bye bye, King.